Today's May 12th, 2025. Current Bitcoin price is $102,386.
Welcome to the BitBite podcast, your source for news and information about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space. This podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not financial advice.
Man, back above 100 grand, Rick. What do you think?
I'm thinking things are going all right for now.
Yeah, no, things are looking good. All the way around. We're looking at this. Gold is sitting at $3,225, so it's off its high just a little bit, right?
Yep, 3,400 basically.
And it's kind of funny because both Bitcoin and gold have kind of rebounded just a little bit and kind of come down slightly, but the other markets are just soaring. I think we're almost back to where we were on some of these markets prior to Trump's Liberation Day.
Yep. It feels like we're about to hit the blow off top all across the board.
On everything.
Well, I shouldn't say the blow off top, but the top goes crazy, the prices go crazy, and then pop.
You think we're about to go into banana mode?
Yeah, we're in the zone. Banana zone.
No, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of positive tailwinds behind us right now. And I think it's across the board, but we'll have to kind of see how this week plays out. I think this week's going to be very important. I believe we get a CPI print on Wednesday. So I'm kind of curious to see how that comes out. We'll have to kind of watch that and kind of see, if it's drastic, like if we hit if it's huge inflation print, which I don't think there will be, but could be, then we may have to try and record another episode here pretty soon. And I do apologize that we did not record again last week. That was 2 weeks in a row that we've had to kind of bypass our recording sessions, but I've been out of town, so playing catch up now.
Yes, sir.
So theoreticals, how are we looking right now with us back over the 100K mark?
Well, all the theoreticals are looking pretty good. Mighty fine, if I do say so. Theoretical number one, if you would have bought $3,000 of Bitcoin back in late October 2023, you would have netted 0.0885 Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin is now worth $9,061. Not too shabby. Three times the money.
Yeah.
And then the second theoretical purchase back in the halving, which is over a year ago now, April 19th, 2024. And that $1,000 purchase would have netted you 0.01564 Bitcoin. And that at $102,000 is worth $1,601. So 60% gain.
Yeah, that's pretty good across the board. I've been trying to stack some sats again lately. And I put over $3,000 in again, and I'm not even close to that 0.0885 I'm purchasing right now.
Yeah.
Not
even close.
No, it's like, dang, man, those are some good prices back in the day. Looking at the ETF flows too, we've had some really good progress. Last time we recorded was on the 30th, which we didn't have BlackRock's numbers that day. Turns out they purchased 267 million, but that still was a red day across the board of $56.3 million that day. And then it looks like we had a nice little tear between the first, second, and then the fifth. We were talking about that earlier, like almost 1.5 billion basically in there.
Yep. Over those 3 days.
Yep. And then we had a sell off on the 6th, not by much though, 85 million. It's funny to say not by much and say 85 million. And then the 7th, 8th, and then 9th looks like a really nice little streak there as well. Still waiting for BlackRock today. My guess is it may be a little bit negative, but that was just because of the action that we saw over the weekend. But everything's looking pretty solid. And I think a big chunk of that too, like you were kind of mentioning this, some of those crazy erratic movements that Trump is making has started to pay off. Yeah.
Well, it seems like the fear is subsiding, and it does look like there's a little bit of payoff. I mean, the other countries came to the table, and they're reducing some of their tariffs on us, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the specifics on the UK deal, but it sounds like that was a good one. But I mean, you would expect that in some way. UK has always been a pretty positive partner of ours or ally, except for when during the Revolutionary War, obviously. And what the there was another war that we had with them.
Oh, it was like the
War of 1812.
War of 1812.
Yeah. Other
Bring
than
down
those,
the White House.
other than those two things, we get along pretty well. And then, yeah, we have a 90-day pause right now with China, right?
Right. And
that's been some pretty positive things for the market. So we'll have to kind of see how this kind of plays out. Like, I'm still would love to see an interest rate cut. And I mean, as much as I hate to say it, but like money printer going on, which we know it's on, but we're not seeing like crazy pedal to the floor. So that's an interesting question to you about this too. Then would it almost be better if we went into a recession for Bitcoin's price with the money printers coming on?
I think the money printers are going to go to Bitcoin no matter what. Well, and that's the thing. Into liquidity, it started going up, about 3 months ago, and now it's hitting the markets, and there's that kind of lag effect.
Yeah.
It usually goes towards Bitcoin. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that we're hitting the stride right now. Let's just see how long the money supply lasts.
Yeah, I mean, this would make sense. Like if we're looking at, because I think we've always kind of talked about like September into November is going to be kind of where the peak's going to take place for this cycle. This would make sense that we're going to start to ramp up at about now.
Mm-hmm.
And see that banana zone that you were kind of talking about, just that crazy parabolic run. But, going into part of that though, too, is that with as much of these, companies adding Bitcoin as a treasury reserve, and they're saying they're not going to sell, are we going to get the sell off the same way we have in the past? And I hate to fall into that trap because every time I convince myself, no, this time's different. It's not.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that remains to be seen. I mean, BlackRock's going to lead the way.
Yeah.
On that direction too. And if they decide to hold on, I think that would be good for the price of Bitcoin. But if they do the fire sale or just get out, I mean, that could be outright devastating to the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, it's interesting to see how it's going to play out. I mean, Larry Fink keeps on talking about Bitcoin, how it's going to go up and all this other stuff. Companies like MicroStrategy or Strategy, I've got one day I will not dead name them anymore, Rick. I'm going to make you that vow now.
It's micro.
They just bought another 13,390 Bitcoin over the weekend for $1.3 billion. And I think he just took out another loan for like $84 billion to buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And the question is like, how many other companies are going to start to follow the same playbook? We had heard about GameStop, but I guess they kind of messed something up. They didn't do it or something.
Yep. Well, isn't the Stripe trying to do something similar?
Yeah. I think Jack Mahler's along with, was
Jack
it somebody from 21 Shares or something like that? Anyways, they're trying to do something similar to what Strategy's been doing. So, I mean, that could be another person that's going to buy in the same way. So it's kind of interesting to see, like, as we kind of ramp up and see more of this happening. I think Dell just turned down a deal to add Bitcoin to their reserves. There's been a few companies that have actually turned it down lately. And I think, I always find it interesting how many of those are going to actually just be like, no, we can't do it. We can't do it. Yeah. But
well, it's just one of those things. I think it's more for companies that don't really need it. I mean, they don't need it right now, and they just don't see the value in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when they do need it, they're going to be behind the eight ball trying to get there.
Yep. I mean, if that day comes, and we've seen a lot, Bitcoin do a lot of things in the time we've been watching it. So we almost feel like it's inevitable, though nothing's really inevitable.
True.
But just watching the momentum of Bitcoin go, it's like, at this point, it's really hard for you and I, at least, to bet against it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think over the long term, as we continue to see this, like I really honestly, in my heart, I do believe like $1 million is inevitable. It's going to be over $1 million. Just the question is time wise, when?
Yeah.
There's too many different things that are coming into play right now that are just converging onto this. Speaking of which, 3 new U.S. state level Bitcoin bills were signed into law. It looks like Arizona actually vetoed the good one.
Of course.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier before we got going, but apparently on the second, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs vetoed SB 1025, which would have enabled the state's treasurer and retirement system to invest 10% of their available funds into virtual currencies. It's basically stated that was cited as a Arizona Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act, and it stipulated that the term virtual currency refers to a digital representation of value that functions as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value other than representations of the United States dollar or foreign currency. Now, obviously, everybody's like, well, that was a big mistake. But they had another bill that was kind of in the winds. And the one that they actually did sign into law was HB 2342, which just allows them to hold basically abandoned or unclaimed assets that they may have seized.
Well, I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, but though I'm not a big fan of government seizures.
No, I'm not either. And actually, no, and I got that wrong. That was HB 2749, which allowed them to basically stockpile the abandoned or unclaimed tokens that they were able to get from individuals. HB 2342, that stipulated that you are not prohibited from lawfully accessing or using computational power or from running blockchain node in a residence. So basically that just said you could mine from home or run your node. Other part of that, though, too, is that New Hampshire actually did straight up sign their Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. And that was HB 302. And that made it, they were the first state in U.S. history to actually sign that into law.
Not surprised.
Yeah, you were talking about that. There's a big libertarian group up there.
Yeah, that's the Free State Project. I mean, New Hampshire's fairly blue, but they have pockets of libertarians out there that are pretty strong, that show up and do their thing. And I wouldn't doubt that they had enough libertarians around just like agitating and making sure that one went through. So, I mean, it's kind of just interesting seeing that from the outside.
No, that is, hey, regardless of how it gets done, I'm glad to see it happen. Apparently it says that the law states that the state treasurer is allowed to invest in digital assets that have a market cap of over 500 billion. So currently Bitcoin is the only virtual currency that actually meets that requirement. And it also allows them to invest in precious metals, which I guess they weren't allowed to before, which was kind of interesting.
Yes.
And then Oregon was the last kind of one on the docket that we have for any laws over this past week. And they signed a law that allows people to use Bitcoin as collateral, or allows it to be recognized as collateral.
I mean, not too bad. I mean, especially for a more blue state like Oregon.
Yeah.
Got to take your wins where you get them.
Absolutely. And I mean, I feel like, and I think I've said this before on this podcast, is that I feel like, the first person that starts to dance at the party, they may look like a fool, but then eventually somebody else will join them. And then they start, it becomes a trend at a certain point, right? But it always takes that first person to kind of just start the dance.
And like El Salvador.
Yeah. Which apparently they're still buying Bitcoin, even though they made that deal with IMF.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. And we're still waiting to hear from Texas. I think Utah is still waiting kind of in the wings. Like there's a lot in the frameworks that were kind of sketched out, but I don't think we've gotten the final bill signed yet. So there's still quite a few out there. There's a lot that have fallen though too that I figured may have gotten through that just haven't made it yet. So we'll have to kind of wait and see with some of those other ones, and as kind of those come up, we'll make sure and alert everybody of those. It looks like speaking of signing strategic Bitcoin reserves into law, the city of Roswell, New Mexico, signed one in, but it was kind of lame, is what I was telling you earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they basically posted their public address so people could donate to their strategic Bitcoin reserve. I don't think they're actually going to allocate any funds to it.
No, they can use some of that alien museum money to put towards it.
to put towards the Bitcoin reserve. There you go. And then also speaking of law stuff, it looks like Conor McGregor, I guess, is running for president of Ireland.
Whatever their version of president is, I guess.
And he's calling for Irish Bitcoin reserve to take place.
Yeah, he's gonna quickly find himself not available to run for office for whatever reason in the European Union.
You think so?
Oh, for sure.
Okay, that's interesting.
They've already eliminated Marine Le Pen in France. They basically barred her from running for president, though she's like clearly the front runner to win. And they did the same thing in Romania.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You need to look into that.
I'm gonna have to check that out and see.
He won like the first round, it's not the runoff, but it's the first round. He won that, and he was about to go into the runoff races, and then they pulled him out because he's kind of like a Trump figure, and he's more he wants to negotiate with Russia. So, of course, he's a Putin putt, and they got him out. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And then kind of the last thing that I was going to bring up is I guess JD Vance is going to speak at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas this year.
JD
Vance.
I don't know. I was enjoying those JD Vance memes for a while, where they're just putting his face all over everybody. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, so much is still coming out this week. I really feel strongly like this could be a really great week for Bitcoin. I mean, analysts are saying 120,000, 125,000 is like a shoe in at this point, but it's like you can never be that positive about it.
No, I mean, Bitcoin does Bitcoin things, and that could be going up unexpectedly or down unexpectedly. So,
yeah,
never count your Bitcoin chickens before they hatch.
One other thing that we had kind of talked about before too, like, we're going to do a little bit of exploration for those of you that may run a node, or if they've heard whisperings like within the Bitcoin space about what core and knots is. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into this and actually kind of figure this out and just kind of explain it for everybody and kind of what that means, hopefully in the coming episode here pretty soon. So if you're interested in that, make sure you stay tuned in for that episode.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, there's a little complicated things going on, and I'm still wrapping my brain around it and seeing what are the pros and cons of what's happening.
Absolutely. Yeah. But that's basically all I have. I mean, other than celebrating the price back above 100 grand again, which is pretty awesome because we were at 70 something month and a half ago. What was that?
74 is where we bottomed out at. So
yeah. So Bitcoin doing Bitcoin things as usual. Back up in that high area, man. Like we may have that extension again, just like we did in 2020, 2021. Who knows? I don't know. I don't want to jinx anything. I don't know what's going to happen, but the only people that ever get hurt in a roller coaster ride are those that bail out too soon. So,
right.
Got to stay with your hands and arms inside the cart at all times.
And you got to ride it all the way down the bowels of hell.
Into the bowels
we've done.
Like we've done. And then you become immune. You're like that dude that they show in the video on the amusement park rides that has no expression. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. We've been snake bit so many times. We're just immune.
Yeah. We're just like, whatever. And we are going to have the collab episode with the Build a Mind podcast. I've got that. It's probably going to come out here shortly, probably released in the next couple of days. They've already released it on their side, and I'm kind of just like getting to the table. So check that out if you're interested in that. And was there anything else you wanted to bring up today?
That's it for now.
Cool. Well, thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you all soon.
Bye.